Paper 1, question 3, this is the second video, so I'm now going to take you through annotating the text, looking for the structural features. And so if I go back to the top, go back to my extract, and you can see what I've done is I've put Frizz Cops at the top there. That's why I'm telling you to sort of revise it and learn it so that you can write that at the top of the extract for this question, just to focus you on the different structural techniques you might be looking for. And as I said in the previous video, you're looking at the events really, you know, what happens, and you're focusing in on looking at how the author structures the events and the order that they happen and what effect that has on you, what it makes you think or feel. I also said in the previous video that, you know, you chunk the extract into 3, so you can look at the 3 chunks: the beginning, the middle and the end, and you can look at those 3 separate chunks and look for things to write about in each of those separate chunks. So if we start at the beginning then, the first bullet point, go back here, is what the writer focuses your attention on at the beginning. So my first lot of annotations are going to be on this first chunk here, because this is the beginning. So as it says at the top, in this extract, a young boy named Pip has been invited to Satty's house by the old woman who lives there, Miss Havisham. This is his first visit. So we've got first person, narrator, and the writer, in terms of structure, he focuses on the boy being on the outside, is at the entrance to the house. And then the writer sort of takes us with Pip, who is the first person narrator, on the journey as he enters into the house. So he's taking us through passages that were all dark. There's a candle burning. She took it up and we went through more passages and up a staircase. And so the opening setting, if you like, as the writer shifts from the outside to the inside, is quite an ominous setting. It's kind of got this feeling of threat about it. If you imagine sort of like horror movies, somebody walking into an old house where the passages were all dark, and he takes us through the journey up more passages. So we've got more passages there, and up a staircase. And the darkness and the journey that is going through is sort of building this sort of sense of tension and sense of threat, if you like. So the first comment you might make about structurally is at the beginning, the writer moves from the outside to the inside of the house. If you remember in Frizz Cops, we've got moving from the external world, you know, to the inside world. There it is, outside world to the inside world, and that movement into the inside of the house, which is taking us through the journey of dark passages and staircases, building a sense of tension. And it seems an ominous opening setting. We get the feeling that you know, something tragic or bad is going to happen because of this journey that the writer is taking us through here. Okay, and then it becomes, you know, sort of even more ominous as, you know, we get this the implication that there is no daylight there. But then it opens out into, where is it? However, the only thing to be done, being knocked at the door. I knocked and a voice from within said enter. I entered. So we follow on, we carry on the journey, and we find myself in a pretty large room. So the writer widens out to a larger room. But that sense of darkness is still there, sense of darkness and threat. threat is still present. So for us as readers, we're still being carried along with this idea of it being something threatening. So the structure carries the reader on through a journey which seems ominous and threatening. So that's the effect on the reader. Okay, so you get the sense that it's building to something, the way that the writer has structured it and taken us through this journey, through this setting. And we don't know what it's building to, but then there is this focus shift, if you like, because we move from the room, the description of the room, and then we zoom in an armchair with an elbow resting on the table and her head leaning on her hand. It's like the strangest lady I've ever seen. So here we have the zoom in on the character, and it's like a delayed introduction to the character, because we've had all this mystery in how the writer has structured the build-up to finally zooming in on the actual character. So when we zoom in on the character, that sense of mystery surrounds her too. Why can't I write in there? So, sense of mystery surrounds her too. You know, all the way through this opening setting, we're taken through this journey and we're wondering, you know, where's it going? What's going to happen? It seems quite a threatening sort of setting, and then all of a sudden we get the introduction of the character, but it has been delayed, which makes her appearance seem quite shocking as well in this sort of dark place where she is situated. Okay, so that would be my first chunk, so I'd probably make some comments about that. And then we move on, and we've got the second chunk here. And so what we have here, we get a zoom in on the character, but we're zooming in on the details of what she's wearing. And so we get these complex sentences with all these details of what she's wearing, zooming in on what she's wearing. So this new comment, writer zooms in on the details of what the character is wearing. And it's slowly building up an image of this woman. Slowly building up an image of it. So we're still feeling the tension, reader, still feeling the tension. You know, we're still wondering who she is. I mean, the description itself kind of suggests that she's a bride and that she's, wearing all these flowers in her hair. But we're still not actually getting to her. So as we go on, we then get a bit of a focus shift as well. And finally, he says, once I had been taken to one of our now the skeleton seemed to have dark eyes that moved and looked at me. And so finally we get a focus in on the actual woman. And it's a shocking image of her as a skeleton. And there's structurally what the writer does by focusing on the details of what she was wearing, like a bridal dress and flowers, and then focusing on her, and then she's described as a skeleton. It's a stark contrast, which the reader would find perhaps shocking or unsettling. So that's the effect of that leading, giving that slow description with those complex sentences of everything he's wearing, and leading to this revelation that she is a skeleton, is giving us that impression and making us feel that shock, or making us feel unsettling about this character. Okay, and so then I need to move on to my final chunk. Let's see what's going on down here. Structurally, what events happen next? So we move back to the narrator's perspective. So just to remind you, we've got fizz cups at the top. So we've got a focus shift, we've got a change in perspective, if you like, because we get the first person narrative perspective here, and we get his internal thoughts. It was when I stood before her, avoiding her eyes, that I took note of the surrounding objects. So we get the internal thoughts of him. Internal thoughts of the first person narrator. Observing. He's observing the clocks around him and how they have stopped, which, you know, adds for the reader to the feeling of strangeness surrounding the woman. Okay, so, you know, in terms of, I haven't got long to answer this question. Again, it's only 8 marks, so we've got about 10 minutes. So those things that I've pointed out will probably, you know, be enough to write about in my answer. So we've got the writer moving from the outside world to the inside world, and then taking us through this journey through dark passages, building up a sense of tension. You know, where's he going? What's he going to find? What's he going to come across? You know, more passages, more staircases. So the repetition of this idea of passages and staircases as well builds this sense of it being a dark and threatening kind of place. So we travel through that with the narrator. And then finally, it widens out into a larger room, but still no sign of finding anybody in there. And then eventually, the character is introduced. It's kind of a delayed introduction of the character. And of course, we've been built up to feel as though this character is something mysterious. And with that revelation of her finally, we still have that sense of her being sort of a mysterious character. And then we've got a focus shift, and we zoom in on the details of what she's wearing, and that slow sort of introduction of this character and how she looks like. She's slowly being revealed to us, basically, is what is happening here. And then the focus shift to the woman being a skeleton, and that contrast with what she's wearing, suggesting that she's a bride and that she's kind of young and sort of rich, but actually, you know, when the focus shifts, we find out that she's more like a skeleton, which we would find shocking, and the fact that it's delayed so long would add to that feeling of shock, or that unsettling feeling. And then we've got the shift to the writer's internal thoughts. The narrator's internal thoughts, as he looks around and notices the clocks that have stopped, which again adds that feeling of strangeness around the woman. So, you know, all in all, it's quite a kind of strange development, if you like. The way the writer has structured it, it adds to the mystery, and it adds to the tension and the strangeness surrounding this character. Okay, so they would be my annotations. I'll stop this video there. It's quite a long one. And then if you go to part 3, I will show you how I'd write it up.